Первый батальон прямо. Остальные направо. На плечо. Равнение направо. Шагом марш!
Pictures of the annual military, parade, the Victory Day parade, amid tight security in Moscow at the Red Square, as always, is the tradition that's being held today. Russia is holding the Victory Day parade amid tight security after drone attacks, and also this comes at a time when the country is mourning thousands of soldiers killed in the nearly 15-month war in the Ukraine. In that sense, in the shadow of the war, the Victory Day parade is being held, and after also Russia suffered a series of setbacks in the course of the war. Russia, remember, celebrates this annually, the Victory Day parade, which is in fact the anniversary of victory over Nazi Germany and World War II, the parade in the Red Square, amid tight security following a series of drone attacks, including on the Kremlin citadel itself. Victory Day, of course, is one of the most important public holidays in Russia, where people commemorate the huge sacrifices made by the Soviet Union during what is called the Great Patriotic War of 1941-45, in which around 27 million citizens perished. This time around, the anniversary is of course more emotionally charged, as Russia mourns thousands of soldiers killed in the nearly 15-month war in Ukraine, which of course shows no sign of ending. The president walked from the Kremlin to Red Square to be greeted by mass lines of military personnel on Tuesday as the start of a Victory Day celebrations to mark the defeat of Nazi Germany in the Second World War. Victory Day is one of the most important public holidays in Russia, when people commemorate huge sacrifices made by the Soviet Union during what is called the Great Patriotic War of 1941-45, in which 27 million citizens perished at that point in time during the course of 5 years. Russia, of course, is also reeling from drone attacks, including one on Kremlin on the 3rd of May, which it said was an attempt really to assassinate President Vladimir Putin. Moscow parade, of course, is an exhibition of patriotism. It comes at a time as the war in Ukraine is ongoing. In 15 months now, in fact. However, that's not to stop thousands of people from lining up the streets of Moscow's Red Square as part of Russia's annual Victory Day parade. And the Kremlin displays a front of military might and grandeur, contrasting with its bordering military temple on the front lines in Ukraine. The Moscow parade, of course, is an exhibition of patriotism, marking the Soviet Union's role in defeating Nazi Germany in World War II. It is in fact the most significant day of Russian President Vladimir Putin's calendar, as of course he's been using it for years together now to rally public support and demonstrate the country's military prowess. On the eve of the parade, the Russian leader paid tribute to those whose unparalleled feats on the battlefields and selfless work in the rear made it possible to crush the Nazi invaders and defend the freedom of their native land. However, in the light of two recent Kremlin drone attacks, deepening fissures also between senior Russian officials over war tactics, and an expected Ukrainian spring offensive, tensions in Moscow are at an all-time high ahead of this parade. Victory Day is one of the most important public holidays in Russia, when people commemorate the huge sacrifices made by the Soviet Union during what is called the Great Patriotic War of 1941-45, in which 27 million citizens perished. Ksenia Kondrateva from Moscow is now joining us with the very latest details as far as the mood and the enthusiasm for the Victory Day parade is concerned. Ksenia, give us a sense of what the people in Moscow, Russia at this point in time feel like, given that this Victory Day parade comes in the shadow of the Ukraine war as Russia is mourning the death of thousands of Russian soldiers in the last 15 months or so. Okay, we'll in fact just reconnect with our reporter on the ground in a moment from now, but details out of the Victory Day parade in Moscow's Red Square is always the tradition here. Victory Day in fact is one of the most important public holidays in Russia when people commemorate the huge sacrifices made by the Soviet Union during the Great Patriotic War of 1941-45. Russia celebrates the anniversary of the victory over Nazi Germany in World War II with a parade in Red Square amid tight security following a series of drone attacks that Russia has alleged, including the one on Kremlin citadel itself that Moscow has blamed on Ukraine, saying that this was an attempt to assassinate President Vladimir Putin. The parade and the anniversary even more emotionally charged as Russia mourns thousands of soldiers killed in the war. I'm going to try and go across to the reporter on the ground. Ksenia is joining us from Moscow. If you can hear me, this Victory Day parade is different from the rest because this marks as well, and this comes at a time when the country has been at war with Ukraine for 15 long months, and Russia is mourning the death of thousands of soldiers killed in the nearly 15-month war in Ukraine. Victory Day is the most important public holiday in Russia when people commemorate the huge sacrifices made by the Soviet Union during what is called the Great Patriotic War of 41-45, in which around 27 million citizens had perished. This time around, this anniversary is even more emotionally charged as Russia is mourning thousands of soldiers killed in the nearly 15-month war in Ukraine that shows no signs of ending. The Red Square parade includes tanks, intercontinental missile launchers and marching troops. However, this time around, what is different is that immortal regiment processions have been cancelled, where people carry portraits of relatives who fought against the Nazis. There have been increase in concerns vis-a-vis security after drone attacks that Russia has alleged. Authorities have also cancelled the traditional flyover, is what we've been given to understand. The war in Ukraine has taken a heavy toll on men and equipment. And this comes at a time when the country is mourning the loss of lives of their soldiers in the 15-month-long conflict with Ukraine. to our correspondent Zenia, who's joining us for more details on that. Zenia, this comes at a time, the Victory Day parade, at a time when Russia is mourning the loss of lives of soldiers in the prolonged war with Ukraine for 15 long months. Yes, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so the parade is happening today at the backdrop of Ukraine conflict, which Russia calls a special military operation and the rest of the world calls war. Continuing, Vladimir Putin addressed the parade just a few minutes back at the Red Square, lashing out at the West, saying that Russia has responded to the war waged against it. He put it that way. He lashed at the West over claiming superiority or exclusivity over the rest of the nations. We can all recall the EU officials, comparing the Europe with a garden and the rest of the world with jungle. So he was referring to that. The Russian president noted that West is trying to wage conflicts, and Ukraine has become a hostage of it, trying to explain what is happening in Ukraine. So I think the sentiment of people here is quite divided. While what is important that the lavish parades, it's relatively a new tradition, and it was really promoted by Vladimir Putin. Since 2008, we have grand parades with all the weaponry participating. Right now, people are gathered here waiting for the weaponry column to pass towards the Red Square. It's not that many people as expected, but there are very tight security reasons, so it's not very easy to come and watch the parade for common people here. The sentiments are quite divided because, yes, the conflict is on, and families who were, touched by mobilization or whose relatives are currently fighting in Ukraine, of course, for them, this celebrating the Victory Day would be a very different, because many would say, what is there to celebrate? At the same time, a lot of people believe that we should not... I'm sorry.
It's not true what you speak.
So a lot of people are countering my words, which is okay. Again, that's why it's divided, as I said. So what is it?
People gathered here to see how technique is going.
Right, this is correct.
Yes, but why you speak? Absolutely not true. That not so many people as expected. So certainly they wait not here, because here will be just after the parade.
They cannot hear, I'm sorry.
But
excuse me, I'm sorry.
Right. We'll just in fact try and reconnect with Zenia once again. Zenia is reporting from Moscow, and she's been saying that opinions are divided on the war. Zenia, if I can come back to you for a moment, and we would really want you there was somebody who interrupted you, so do be careful. I just want to ask you the facts here. The fact of the matter is that this time around the sentiment is such that what really is there to celebrate? You did tell us that. Also, security is being tightened this time around. Do you see a bit of a toned down sort of celebration, so to speak? I believe the Immortal Regiment procession has also been cancelled, where the portrait of relatives who fought against the Nazis is usually carried, and that has been cancelled. Also, there are other celebrations also that have been toned down to an extent. Is that correct?
Yeah, so some of the parts of celebration have been cancelled for security reasons, because over the past 1 week we had a lot of terroristic attacks where, of course, you had drones over Kremlin, but nobody has suffered in those attacks. But you had people blown up in their cars. You had people in St. Petersburg, one person killed with a bomb and 30 more injured. So, of course, some precautions had to be taken, and the country is in the state of a military conflict, so that is very much expected. Now, about the sentiments divided, yes, it's a bit dangerous, as you have seen, to even mention that, because while the majority supports, if I can say so, whatever is happening in Ukraine for geopolitical reasons, many people feel that there is no such a support among a certain section of people, which is again understandable.
That's correct.
But what I was trying to say that it's a very, I would say it's a very wrong thing to mix up the events of World War II, 1941 to 1945, and the ongoing conflict.
All right, Tanya, I'm going to thank you, in fact, for the moment, for joining us and sharing your views with us on what the Victory Day parade essentially looks like this time around, and what really is the sentiment on the ground. Clearly, it is divided. We'll continue to keep a very close eye on all of those developments. For the moment,